evening again. Now we're gonna have episode 4 of the um invite meeting with the Mr. Golden and the people and the disabled people and the stakeholders. Now this time we're gonna hear from Damian Crawford and oh my God, I forgot the other person's name. You're gonna hear from both of them. Yes, because this thing is so long. I'm just giving you people, you guys, piece by piece. You understand? So this time you're gonna hear from Damian Crawford, and there's another guy there. I forget his name. So you just have to relax and sit back and listen what they all have to say. They all have good plans, very, very, very good plans for the people of Jamaica here. So you just have to just listen out and and just watch. And they drop your views in the comment, what you have to say in the comment about what the ideas that they're talking about. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Comrade leader, ladies and gentlemen, Madam Lovanana, Madam Moderator. When it comes to education, there are 3 segments of conversation that must be had. The one that is most noticed is the child or children with disabilities. However, one must also consider children with parents with disabilities, and one must also consider the circumstances that a child may face when they develop disabilities while they were not necessarily born with a disability. I start with the children with parents that have a disability because that has many impact, for example, on early access to education. Because of the transport impact, you will find that many persons with the need to assist their child to school, having disability, in particular physical disabilities, don't have that ease of access to taking that child to school. It has often led, therefore, to the child being delayed in early exposure and by extension often underperforming, though they themselves have no disability. The leader spoke to the reality that some parents with children with disability find it difficult to re-enter into the work world. And that difficulty calls for affording a reasonable life, a reasonable living standard to be difficult. It has caused for malnourishment among children. It has caused for other impacts such as limited attendance to school. And therefore, we must engage these parents and seek to find what we call home employment or home business opportunities so that those children born without a disability don't over time develop inadequacies due to the inability to afford the necessities of nutrition, medicine, and natural health care, which have come with a cost. We have therefore moved to those children that have a disability. And I think we underestimate the real power of our motto, out of many one. We seem to think that it is based on race. But out of many one can be extended also to the abled and the disabled. It can be extended to the rural and the urban, because out of many, the experience should be similar. To that extent, we have to, as was indicated by the wonderful spokesperson and future person with responsibility for disabilities, is that we must ensure that there's ample testing so that we can diagnose the issue early and start early intervention. That doesn't exist at this point because we only have 2 testing centers, and that is as recent as 2 years ago. We only had 1 testing center. It has led to a waiting period of up to 4 years, which is 1/3 of the period of time that you're likely to be in school. And so the person to be tested in 1 grade often don't achieve testing until they're in 5th grade. And then they only have another 7 years of school. And so that is an unacceptable situation. We therefore intend to expand testing to our 7 regions and hopefully eventually to our 14 parishes. And the 7 regions to achieve that goal, firstly, is to incorporate some of our partners, international partners, because some of the skill sets for testing are not here in the abundance necessary to utilize. We have had conversations with some international ambassadors about extending some of their expertise, but then to give scholarships to locals so that we can build out that expertise and engage in that testing. The second thing is to expand the shadows that we have in school to ensure that we can incorporate those children that need additional assistance in our schools, and to aggressively expand physical access through ramps, but not just through ramps, through bathrooms. I've often heard the conversation of multiple ramps, but if you don't have a disabled specific bathroom, then you find that there is additional and extensive difficulties. I welcome the conversation about having a special disability fund, because that can also help with ensuring books are available, technology available, and also transportation methods and mechanisms are available. We have already indicated that we will assist persons through our RIDE program to get to school. We will assist persons through our food program to have 56% to receive lunch, and not a segregated line through a part lunch, but the same quality of lunch with a $400 commitment. And we are also committing to dramatically increase from 18% having 5 subjects eventually to 80%. And that will include all Jamaicans, so no one, including the disabled, can be left behind. I end by acknowledging one of my inspirations, an individual who came to the university with us. Virgin, I see you sitting there, and I want you to just get up and wave to the crowd as a man on Taylor Hall and my personal block. Not Floyd this time, everybody know Floyd. The great Ambulance. Respect. And I hope that he can be an example as a man who was also incorporated in the extracurricular as far as blind cricket, and also a big domino player. So we love you, and we look forward to working with you and supporting the disabled in this engagement. Out of many, one people.
Thank you, Comrade Crawford. Crisp and clear. I'm going to now invite Comrade Jesse James to come forward and to take his 3 to 5 minutes. Immediately after him, Comrade Julian Robinson, I beg your pardon, Comrade Floyd Morris, whom I did not introduce, will speak, and then Comrade Julian Robinson. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Pleasant good evening, everyone. A special good evening, Comrade Leader. And I see my classmate from high school here, Ziggy Woodstock. Big up. Yes. And also the candidate, too, from North St. Elizabeth. Northwest St. Elizabeth, yes. All right. Yes. Elders leading the presentations. I'm happy you're here. All right. So I was asked to speak on the health sector and inclusion for persons with disabilities. If we can create a health system that meets the needs of our vulnerable population, we will be able to take care of every Jamaican. The sad reality is that as it relates to public health care in Jamaica, we are all part of the vulnerable group. As overworked, demotivated staff battle to provide the best service they can without the equipment required to provide world-class service. The World Health Organization estimates that at least 15% of our population is comprised of persons living with disability, which means that we all know of a person with disability. Some persons are born with a disability. For example, person with hearing disability. Some develop a disability over time. For example, due to aging, or for conditions, for example, like arthritis, or from complications from non-communicable diseases. as you heard earlier. Violence is also another factor that can cause somebody to become disabled, and others due to accidents, for example, motor vehicle accidents or infectious diseases. While the Disabilities Act was a step in the right direction, more must be done to ensure that our healthcare facilities are friendly to the disabled community. And I just want to give an example. It's not a healthcare facility, but if you look at most of the EOJ offices, especially here in the corporate area, they're on a plaza upstairs. And there are no elevators, there are no ramps, nothing like that to accommodate persons with disabilities. So that is also an example. So the government or government facilities, we have to start by setting the example, by adhering to the act and live it out in our society. Accessibility to healthcare should not be the only thing considered as we focus on the presence of ramps, rails, and elevators, but must include the access to healthcare by having staff trained to interact with persons from this community and specialized equipment, including the suitability of transportation use. Most medical services could also be delivered at their homes, which might be more practical in many cases. And this speaks to mobile healthcare, which you heard Patty just spoke about earlier. And mobile healthcare is something that I believe we should have right across the board because it's the best way to pick up and to do that early screening that you will need. Discrimination remains a major problem that significantly affects the quality of patient-staff interaction, thus leading to substandard treatment outcomes. A discrimination faced is further compounded when persons who become disabled due to illness are abandoned at hospitals by family members, which also causes a reduction in available bed spaces for new patients. And this is actually a major problem that we're having, especially in some of our hospitals in western side of Jamaica and so on, because, and the reality, as you'll hear said later on, the financial situation is also a part of the reason to why persons are also abandoned at the hospitals, because they can't afford to take care of persons with disabilities, so they believe that they'll get better care by leaving them in the hospital. And that is also a part of the reason. So not all persons are abandoned because persons just no longer think that they are important. But sometimes it's because of the harsh economic environment that that is a reality for many of our people. The harsh economic conditions that many Jamaicans contend with also influence the decision of family members to leave their disabled loved ones in the hospital. Increased public education and the use of various methods of spreading public health messages will be needed under the future administration. So many times when we are having, and you saw it being played out during COVID pandemic, you want to issue a particular health advisory, or you want to educate the public about a particular outbreak or anything public health related. The messages that are given out, the method used to give out the message don't necessarily accommodate persons living with disabilities. And that's something that we have to change. The mental health unit has a menu of services that are offered to adults and children. However, this unit is severely underfunded and is unable to meet the growing demand for the services. For example, the crisis team here in Kingston and St. Andrew uses workers from the same team that works during the day to respond to distress calls after work hours. If you report, so what you have happening, members from the team that work in the day, they do extra hours or sessions in the evening or in the nights to go and pick up persons who are reported who need that assistance from the team to pick them up, to bring them to a facility for them to, whether it's to get treatment or medication or whatever it is. Which is a problem because the team is already very small, they're already tired from working in the day, and they can't cover the amount of persons that are on the list. So I had a case in my division where I had somebody that I reported. And one, if you make the report like on a weekend, You find if you call the police, they are the 911 number, they're going to tell you that they are not trained to deal with persons with disabilities. So they're going to tell you to call Bellevue. Bellevue is going to tell you that they're at capacity. And I must call the crisis center, which is at Rinward Road. And they're going to call that number, it's going to ring without any answer. And the last time I checked, they didn't even have a landline in the mental health unit. It was a CUG cell phone that they were using, which is not appropriate for conditions like that. So what we want is to have police officers assigned to the mental unit who are so trained, so that when you make that call, they can just respond as a team together. And I said earlier that elders was in the presentation, because you find that whenever government wants to make cuts, they start with mental health. So, for example, the mental health services were totally removed from the Ellerslie Health Center, which is in North St. Elizabeth, up in the hills. So that community no longer have access to that service. And you see it being played out. And we have it being played out here in the community to us in Kingston and St. Andrew, where you have persons, you see them on the road, you see that they interfere with the garbage, they get in confrontations with persons, because not everybody know how to deal with persons from the community. So we want to ensure that all the health centers, persons have access through the health centers to the different services. And just to close, there is one other issue that I wanted to mention, is that while it's not just for it's not just for persons living with disability, it's for everyone who has to interact with the health system, particularly at the hospitals. Over and over, you see it on the news where persons come out and they complain about the service that they receive at a hospital, especially when they have a case where a loved one died. And most times, these persons don't have the resources to press the matter to investigate it properly. I personally believe something that we should consider looking into. Having an independent body where you don't have the same hospital investigating themselves or the same region leading the investigation, but an independent body with persons who have the expertise in both investigation and also the medical background to do an independent investigation and to then say this is what cause of death and these are the persons who were negligible. And also you need on the other side to protect healthcare workers too, because sometimes patients exaggerate and say things that don't necessarily go like that. But we need the truth and an independent body to deal with that. These problems are complex problems, and our problems you expect to just fix overnight, but you have an administration that is committed to working to see how best we can address these needs, so that by the time we are back here again in some years from now, looking back or making suggestions going forward, we have gone a long way down the wicket. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I noticed you weren't watching me, but you had a lot to say, right? So, thank you.
Now, guys, you see all the great plans they're having. Trust me, we need people like these in leadership right now, because with these kind of plans and other great plans, we'll have a bright future. Because right now, trust me, it's dark, it don't look good. It don't look good at all. So please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.